What's up, everybody, and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast on FusionX. And joining me today, we have Zenidra, Alduino, and Bryn.
What's up, everybody?
Hi.
Were you stuttering or trying to sing? I don't know what that was.
I'm weird. I don't know.
Okay, we'll just go with weird. That's fine.
Well, at least you talked this time. Alduino just waved at the camera, so for those on the audio version only, he sends his regards.
I'm miming. It's okay.
There you go.
I was bouncing around and I was like, you know what? They can't see that. And so thanks to Brian and his commentary.
Yes, I was providing audio-visual commentary on the podcast for those who are audio only, sponsored by Texas. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Texas.
The state of
the entirety
Texas.
of.
Okay.
The entirety, yeah.
Governor's looking at the budget. What is this fee to Aether? I mean, I'm looking at stuff to cut. It's either we got to kill all the orphanages off, or this Aetheryte Radio thing. I don't know which one. I don't even know what this is. All right. Go over some quick news here real quick. The finalists for the Tank Gear Design Contest have been posted. Anything from bucket helmets to Gundam-looking armor.
I like the one that looked like a tank.
Yeah,
the one that actually looks like a tank.
One.
Yeah, that was funny.
It's cute.
I like the bucket head. But that's back when they first teased a Yokai Watch collaboration. I think it was the guy from Level 5. They had they actually made an in-game bucket head armor piece that never came out. It was I think it was when the Ironworks gear was out.
Yeah.
Right when Poetics came out.
I wonder how much
know.
gear and stuff that they've made that hasn't come out yet. Because at some point they'd be like, oh, we've got the assets in the files. Because they even teased at one point, I think earlier this year, they talked about they made Clouds from Final Fantasy VII's bike as a mount, but there's not in game because they're like, well, we don't know.
I don't know if did they make it or did they just do a test. I can't.
It could have been a test, but it's still for a test regardless. Yeah. They still have to put assets and there is work that goes into building a test. So you wonder how much stuff hits the design floor, is held, and eventually is released. Maybe a year or years later could be.
Yeah. So they're cool.
So
check
we
those
talk
out.
about Summoner Eggies.
Hey, they said it's starting at 3.4, which is unless they're changing that.
We'll see.
Soon. We'll see.
Also, they've announced the Final Fantasy FanFest art and costume contests. Art submission date is August 31st. So if you're going to FanFest, or even if you're not going to FanFest, and you want to enter that, go ahead and get your stuff in by next month on the 31st.
It's important to note that if you do plan to submit, they take your first submission, and so the details are listed on the site and the activity. But just FYI, so if you're like, oh, I'm going to send 3 things, they're only going to take the first thing that you submit. So it's one entry per person.
Yeah. So don't send a million different pictures. They won't
just send it under different aliases.
There you go. It would be awkward if you were there and each one won. You come back up on stage. No, that's me too.
We're triplet red-headed bearded men.
There you go. Wow.
Too many.
And then finally here, we have a 3-year anniversary 14-hour broadcast has been announced for Friday, August 26th at 8 p.m. Pacific. They did this last year and the year before as well. So it's basically they'll invite special guests on. I think a lot of times they'll throw a live letter in there too. I think the last one, was it last year or the year before, they did the ALS thing in the middle of it, the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, it'll be a lot of stuff. None of it will be in English, but something to tune into. If there is a live letter, obviously, that'll be translated and stuff like that. So.
And one thing we actually forgot to mention, if obviously y'all haven't seen it, if you're listening to this and you're not currently subscribed, you can log in for up to 120 hours up till the end of August.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
so if you're listening to this in 2016, between July and August, and you are not subscribed, go log in and play and update.
So if you're a super fan of Yokai Watch and you want to do the Yokai Watch event, now's the time.
That's a good point.
You don't have to pay for it or anything. So
just go play Deep Dungeon instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's so many people doing that, and I'm just like, No. Too
You're
much
not
time.
a fan of the Deep Dungeon?
No, Yokai Watch.
Yokai Watch. Well,
Oh,
we'll get
okay.
to Yokai Watch. But first, we're going to talk about Deep Dungeon since that came out a couple weeks ago. What do you guys think about Deep Dungeon so far?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I haven't run it enough to where I burned out. It's that we've done it, and we never. The only downside is there's 2 slots, and sometimes I just feel like I wish there was a 3rd save slot because it just seems like we keep mixing and matching. So we always tend to start from the beginning. But we were playing and having a good time. It's fun. It's kind of feels like that level up is just like firing all the time. And then we hit a trap, and then we hit an enemy that just kind of like all wiped us out like really quick, and it was really surprising. So, but that was kind of exciting. It was like, holy crap! Like, okay, we need to approach this differently, etc. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like that. For me personally, I'm working on the jobs that I don't have at 60, so I'm not using it for tomes at all. Like, I'm just using it for leveling all these other jobs that I've never really cared about. Well, I guess not cared about, so it's a harsh term. Just never had the interest to focus on them.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of like in the opposite. I've gone to 50, so I've cleared it over a couple days. I think it is the most boring thing I have ever done. It's just you go in and it's like, all right, next floor. It's all trash mobs, and you get to the boss and it's like, yeah, okay, great.
Are you going in with randoms, or are you going with friends that are on voice chat?
I've been doing match parties.
Okay,
so I've been going in with
people you run
other
chat
people.
with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Bummer.
I mean, with any content though, like that's the thing where it's like you can do anything in Duty Finder. It's not going to be fun. You go in with friends, it's going to be fun. So I feel like that's not a valid point here.
So I would say then take mine with a grain of salt, because the fun that we're having isn't so much.
Because Brian actually has friends
content
that he plays with, so
and my wife, and so we're all just chatting and we're just having fun, and it's just
yelling at each other.
It's just, and we're just talking trash to one another, like, why'd you pull that? And because it doesn't matter. Like the healer can go off and pull something because there's no real tank makeup. So we're just having. We're also drinking while we're playing, so it's like,
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, you're having
That'll
fun.
make anything.
So take my
anything
opinion with
fun.
a grain of salt. Like like maybe Deep Dungeon is meant to be enjoyed with a little tequila. I don't know.
Yeah, I also think that the weapon. I know they've made changes, so it's a little easier to get by the time you go 1 through 50, and that's more of an annoyance. But I think the biggest problem is I think that weapon is way overpowered for the content right now.
Like in the Deep Dungeon content, or like outside?
Outside, because it's I-135 for just mindlessly running through trash mobs, and that's way too much.
Okay.
I think. But
do you think that the solution is going to be that they're talking about going all the way to 200 floors? That the challenge and the craziness or whatever is going to be brought in at that point?
It depends on what they give us, and it depends on how things change. I mean, if it hits you with more, like status downs and stuff like that when you hit each floor, then that might make it a little more interesting. Because as it is right now, like I feel like those don't occur often enough to really matter.
Okay.
And you get enough of those items to remove it that if you get one that's really bad, you can just remove it and it's a non-issue, right? They never. I've never been in a group where one hits and it totally screws us up and we have to change our whole strategy around it. It's just like, oh, I'll just use this item. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
But yeah,
Did you say it was 135? 135?
I thought it was 135.
He said 135, which means that I would feel they would be super underpowered.
I think I meant 235.
I was like, 135?
Yeah, my bad.
No, that's bad.
Yushin, we're in 3.0. Come out of your 2.0 world, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty up there. And I mean, like...
That's equivalent of a horde weapon.
Yes.
My anima weapon is 230. Like... I've been busting my ass on this thing, and now I can just like mindlessly run through this dungeon to get something that's better. That's bullshit. I'm sorry. That's bad design. That's way overpowered.
A lot of the stats are horrible, though. I think it's only good for dex classes, really.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's great for people that can get it, but at the same time, I don't think anything in content that requires that little amount of skill should be able to like trump something that people have been working months on. Like that's stupid. Like, I get it at some point, right? That's got to happen, like, maybe with content that comes out in a few more patches. But, like, right now, I don't feel like that's right.
Does it trump it? Because if the stats really, if it trumps it in terms of eye level, but the stats really aren't getting you.
Because I think it only
has,
I think, like 2 stats or something on it.
Yeah.
Was that what it was? Yeah. So it's that weird mix of, like, technically it's a higher item level, but it doesn't have as many stats. So it's weird. But
it's good for someone who's legitimately using the deep dungeon to level a job from 17 to 60 though.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's like
because then once you're done with all of that leveling crap, here's a weapon. Then you can go do real content.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what it was made for. But at the same time, like, do they really need like a 235 thing to do that with? I mean, what are people doing right now? I mean, they're not gonna come into the game, level with Deep Dungeon, and then immediately go into like Midas Savage, right? Like, that's not gonna happen.
Right. But I mean,
they're gonna be doing like
Void Arc,
or they'll be doing like Gordius or something. Like, so I don't know that it needs to be that
Who does
powerful.
Gordius anymore? Come on.
Well, right. But I mean, if somebody's going through the game and they need gear, I mean, that's an easy way to get gear.
Right.
But
at the same time, though, when you hit that final level, a lot of the things that people end up doing is the newest Primal, and the newest Primal has the same eye level.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And usually better stats. I think my favorite part about it... Yeah. My favorite part about it is that it's kind of a trial of any job that you haven't leveled.
That's true.
Because you go 1 to 60 so fast that you can see... You know what? I kind of like Machinist at 60.
Like, hey, I didn't think I'd like this. Or you could be like, I was thinking I was really going to like this job, but I want to go check out something else. And that's, so we've been just mixing and matching and playing around with all various kinds. Like, I had a guy who plays as one of our main black mages. He's like, you know what? I'm going to try out Warrior, So he's playing as Marauder.
That's
and he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, it is completely different. And so, I think maybe like Fusion's point that maybe the eye level of the weapon is maybe elevated too high. That's a tough balance, because it's that you want some, reason for players who aren't interested in leveling to go in, but it seems like this content was really built for playing around with other jobs and and helping to level those up. And that's, to me, like that's actually what we're using it for. Like, I haven't, I don't care about like my 60s. I'm playing, right now I've been playing it as a Lancer, and I'm almost to where I can actually now switch to a Dragoon. I'm like, okay, would I have leveled, that class? Maybe at some point, but I'm doing it now for this content.
I think
on the other flip side, you go ahead.
I think my other question too, I mean, talking about going in and like trying jobs out, I don't know that Deep Dungeon gives you enough time to really learn. It's like, okay, you go in on something that's like Dark Knight, for example, right? You go into Dark Knight, you're 30, you go to 60. Do you really have that much time to figure out what these new abilities are, what they do, how to rotate them in? I don't think that the content gives you enough time, and there's no way to outside of like looking at the wiki or something to see what those abilities are. Like, in game, it doesn't give you the time to experiment. It's just like, oh, you have a new ability now, and maybe it's like the third action on a combo that you'll use, like, no brainer. But other than that, you're just like, all right, like, whatever.
It's definitely not going to show you how to play that job correctly or to your best ability. And I don't think it's meant for that. I still think it's meant to give you a taste and either spur your interest in continuing to level that job through it to learn it. Because essentially, when you do hit 60, you come out, you're not 60. You still have to go and do that, but you're going to get nice XP boosts, so outside of that content, which isn't really, like, we already said that it isn't really geared so that you have to perform at your best if you want to win. And so then it's going to kick you out, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to keep working on that, and then you're going to kind of get that through multiple run-throughs and continuing to level that in the real. Well, it's weird to say in the real world.
Kind of the real fake world.
The real fake world of AORs,
yeah.
We went with a friend of ours who wanted to go on Machinist, and they literally just unlocked it. So. Because we were there, we could say, "Oh, this ability does this." Okay. This ability does this.
There's a tornado running through my.
So you're probably not gonna get that in every run through, but there could always be the chance that someone will help you out
Right.
The other thing I was going to say is it's definitely geared toward people who are going to use it to level, as we've all been saying.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is because I think all of my jobs but Dark Knight are 60, and I'm not going to get any of the extra junk you get for leveling an under 50 job because I don't have any.
Mhm.
So it sucks for me. I think you get extra pot shards for that.
I believe so.
Yeah, you
I'm not
have
entirely
the
sure, but I think
chance
so.
to get
Dude.
extra
Mhm.
pot
Okay.
shards for chests as you level. So that's
Yeah.
cool, I guess. Never
I
gonna
mean,
see that.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped in on Dark Knight because, at one point I wouldn't mind getting a tank up to 60
Dark Knight's a
and,
good one to
unlock
have.
Mentor and stuff. But my problem is, like, I have Warrior and Paladin at 50 from back in the day, and I don't know how to tank worth a damn. So,
Well, that's perfect for you then in this situation because you
well,
don't
right,
really need a tank.
But here's my thing though: is I did a few runs on my Dark Knight, and I got like 1.5 levels, maybe 2,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's before the big XP curve, right?
Right.
I'd rather fate grind. Like I've been leveling my Dark Knight doing the damn
Yeah.
Yokai Watch stuff because at least I get
Yeah.
to run around and see a couple different areas.
Okay,
With Deep
sure.
Dungeon, it's just okay, next floor, next floor, next floor, and then I just keep doing it, and I feel like I get more XP out of fate grinding than I would doing Deep Dungeon.
I think it's
So
pretty
really-
bad for low level, but as you get closer and closer to 60, it kind of ramps up. I know low
Does
level is really slow. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I got.
Well, if it does
I
that,
got, like,
then I could see that maybe being a little better.
Yeah, like in
Hundreds of-
between the
hundreds of
dungeons
thousands
in the
of K.
50s. Yeah. Like if you're sick and tired of doing, like I don't know, the vault, you could do this a couple of times and then you're in the next tier.
Orm Vale.
Or
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
please, no.
it's another option, especially for leveling, because why not? It gives you that other option. And
Right.
I think essentially to solve kind of the additional problem there is that the environment's okay, they're the way they are, but with the concept of the endless dungeon in which that you try to go as far as you can go, is that they could really use this depending on because they were talking about introducing other outside of the Palace of the Dead. They've got plans for other types of these deep dungeons to introduce varying crazy areas. So it's very obviously Gridanian influenced right here, but we can really get and expect to see who knows what kind of crazy environments that they could set up where they could have a deep dungeon that goes up and up and up to the moon.
Well, the lore of it is that it's the Gomorrah ruins, right?
Yes.
So I don't think we're gonna stray too far, but who knows? Maybe they have
Not
up and up
maybe
and up to
within
the
the
moon.
Palace of the Dead though. I'm saying within if they introduce other palaces or who knows?
Yeah, 'cause-
I mean it'll be interesting to see because
Fair enough.
variety is the spice of interest because fusion's right. Running around doing fates, you're seeing you're not looking at the same thing, doing the same thing. It allows you to at least have some kind of semblance of
And you can play
sanity.
Chocobo and Fates. So
I actually really like
Oh, that'd be so great if you could bring your
the
Chocobo-
music. I really like the music.
Oh yeah.
I love that
You
they've been
get
bringing
a-
back some of the older stuff.
Yeah, fun variety and just stuff
Yeah.
you don't hear
Yeah.
anywhere else.
Good point. Good.
But yeah, Brian made a good point too. I think not a lot of people realize that Deep Dungeon is the content type, and the actual name of the area is Palace of the Dead. So I mean, it's like raids, Void Ark, City of Mach. It's Deep Dungeon, Palace of the Dead, and then whatever they feel like adding. And I think, they'll absolutely be adding more Deep Dungeons in the future. And I just kind of had this thought too, where what if they've teased an area before that's related to the Crystal Tower. But what if instead of a new raid series in 4.0, what if they turn Eureka into the next Deep Dungeon?
That'd be cool.
Or
Yeah.
there was dungeons under Ulda, not dungeons, ruins.
Yeah.
Is it Silda?
Yeah,
Ruins
the
under
Silda.
Ulda.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
also,
I mean,
I would love that fusion because I think that's one of the disconnects we have with some of the while I'm enjoying and love 3.0 story, all that. There was this sense of Crystal Tower and the binding coil Bahamut that really draws you in, that interest and being able to go and bring back interesting things and going into, like you said, Eureka, which from the Final Fantasy stuff is connected through the Crystal Tower. How cool would that be? Because they could do so much. They
I
could
think it
introduce
makes sense
some interesting bosses.
because I mean, the whole Crystal Tower storyline, it was finalized with like a little bit of a hint that we might get more, right, when Nero throws the compass down and you hear like the little beep. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if 4.0 is Alamigo, we're going east. You don't want to be like, all right, and like the new raid series is like back over here and we're done like that. That feels backwards, right? And so by doing Deep Dungeon, I mean, look at Palace of the Dead. Palace of the Dead is in the 2.0 area. So they could very well have 4.0 come out and then have, the new Deep Dungeon be in a 3.0 area or in a 2.0 area or whatever. I mean, it's a little different where it's doesn't necessarily have to be based on new areas, I think is the way I'm thinking about it in my head. But
it's a great
if you have 4.0, you're going to want
type.
the raid. You're going to want both the 8-man and the alliance stuff to be in that new stuff. You don't want to have it in older content. So I think maybe that would make sense to do Eureka for 4.0 Deep Dungeon. I don't know. So also in Palace of the Dead, Onwell did a really cool job of putting this together. There are some NPCs that you can encounter at random, which are actually like targetable enemies, but we've actually met all these people before, and they're all NPCs that have died in quests or missions that we've done, which is kind of creepy, but like kind of a cool little like Easter egg. We have the
makes you wonder what happens to you if you die.
Well, we can't.
Raise me, guys! I cannot go back to Palace of the Dead right now.
I just get Phoenix downed is what happens. But yeah, lots of NPCs from storylines and stuff. So we have a whole post about that up on Gamerscape. Make sure to check that out and keep an eye out too in Deep Dungeon. You'll see just some random adventures, and they have like the naming on them. They don't have like their actual names, but they'll it'll be like staff wielding adventurer or something like that, and they'll have a little text bubble when you defeat them. So they are random. So maybe you've seen them yet, maybe you haven't, but make sure to check that out. We got the post and a little bit of lore on each of them over at gamerscape.com.
Cool.
All right, and that'll take us into Yokai Watch. What do you guys think of the Yokai Watch event so far?
I haven't yet to actually start it, but I have seen all the mounts and the various things that people have running around. So for me, I like that it's running to October because I've been like swamped the last like 2 and 3 weeks. This July month has just been brutal for my free time. So I was like, oh, good, I've got time. So I'll have to, if either of you guys have been doing it, any of you guys, I'll let y'all speak to it here.
Absolutely not. I hate the summer book so much. I hate it so much. I'm not even gonna do it.
Here's my problem, right? Like I've never played. I think I played the demo like of Yokai Watch, and
right.
I couldn't get into it. But I'll be damned if I don't get an event item and they try and charge me for it, like a 6 months down the road. So I need to get all the event items.
I understand.
Getting the minions isn't too bad, right? Because you get these little medallions or medal, the yokai medals from doing fates, and then you buy the minions. The problem is
the weapon.
As you buy them, the cost goes up.
Right.
And this also happens for the weapons. So after you get all the minions, in order to get a weapon, you need to have a specific minion out, and you'll get what they call legendary yokai medals. And so I think it starts at 7, but after every one you buy, that goes up and up and up. And I think eventually you need like 30 or 40 for like a single weapon.
How many do you get per fate?
1.
Okay,
if you get one.
Yeah, it's like a 30% people are saying.
Yeah. It's like, when they were talking about this event, they had mentioned, they want to make the weapons, a little difficult to get. Which I don't know if I agree with, right? Because it's an event. It's not like these are like all powerful weapons or what. It's little glamour stuff. Like they shouldn't be hard to get. And of course, now that the events come out, we know that if you get all the weapons, you get another mount.
Right.
What?
It glows.
You get a glowing.
So there's the ghost mount, and then if you get all the weapons, you get another mount.
It's a glowing ghost mount.
Holy crap! Like, there's no way that I'm gonna have to start now.
That's why the event is 2 months long, right?
All right, guys, gotta go.
It's one of those things where I don't know. It's kind of annoying. I feel like they just drew it out like that so more people would be doing fates. I feel like this whole thing is just like, we need people doing fates again. Let's do an event that has people do fates. Just it's like anima grinding all over again. That's exactly what this is.
They should incentivize fates outside of these events anyway. Like why is it that they have to incentivize it? It's just that people kind of die off, but they should just naturally have. And what I mean by that is that give out different type. Like why not give out tomes just for doing fates? Like it should be a low number, but hey, there's a fate. I can go get 3 tomes of lore.
Give everybody poetics. Nobody cares about them.
Right. Well, why not? Like, why not just do that? Because
happy.
That's going to help incentivize, you if you want it. Like there's at this point, why not? And almost to the point where why not give it out even if you're under level? Like just here's the additional rewards that are coming through fates to just incentivize them overall. I don't know. Anyway,
I mean, I think that's a fair point. I mean, they could do that with poetics easy. I mean, or if you're 60 and you're doing stuff, 5.
Nobody wants poetics.
Something. Well, that's
that's
the thing.
Poetics gear.
That's the thing. You're still getting tomes. You may not need them, but for the few people that do, it's something. Or you can buy stuff and sell it for like 100 gil, whatever the crafting stuff is going for from poetics nowadays.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something more. But yeah, I mean, just going around. I've actually been, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I've been doing all these fates on my Dark Knight, and so I've been leveling on my Dark Knight, doing all these damn fates for Yokai Watch. And the other thing that's kind of nice about these too is the weapons you can get are level 30, so you can glamour them pretty early on too if you want. But it's rough trying to get all these damn medals. I wish they would have made it a little easier, because again, they're not like super strong weapons. They're they're level 30 glamour things. I don't know. I feel like it's a little overkill.
I'm not interested.
I will never know.
I'm not gonna do it.
I'll see how I get. I'd like to try and get the other mount, but it's man.
Yeah, I like mounts.
I don't know.
They actually put a mount on the store that I was like, I would buy that, and then I went and looked at the price, and I go, not for that price. Have you all seen that giant flying Moogle?
We should talk about that too, because there was a lot of commotion about that.
Oh yeah.
Online. So what they have, if you haven't seen it yet, is it a fat Moogle?
It's like a giant, a fat Moogle.
Fat flying Moogle, where it's basically the Moogle is like, it's like a hot air balloon, where like the Moogle is the balloon, and then there's like a little bench under, and there's 2 other little Moogles that fly around, and it plays the King Mog song. But it's $30, right? And so for comparison,
and that's account wide, right? That's not like
Yep.
It is account wide.
Some of them are like the cheaper ones are like
which is
just one character.
Yeah. So there's, when looking at mounts on the Mog Station, there's a couple things to note. You have some mounts that are single character use. You have mounts that are account wide, and then you'll have mounts that can fly, and two-seater mounts. So this Moogle is the first purchasable 2-seater mount. It's also, I want to say, the first of like the last 4 or 5 mounts that's actually account wide. A lot of them have only been single character use. The Magitech were single character uses. I remember that because I got a code and then I redeemed it to the wrong character, which was great because support couldn't do anything about it. They don't have a system in place for, you have multiple characters with the same name on different worlds and you accidentally clicked the wrong one. We don't have a way to do, like,
they warn you about it.
So stupid. They do. And if you actually read carefully, it wouldn't be a problem. But I feel like support should be able to generate another code or something. They can't. That seems like an oversight. I don't know. It was a pain in the ass to deal with. But anyway, so yeah, it's Sleipnir by comparison is like $24, and so the Moogle is $30. And I think Sleipnir was account wide.
Yeah, it was. Well.
But so for $6 more, you get it flies and it's a 2-seater. My favorite comment I saw. Somebody that's like, Sleipnir was okay, but this Moogle is like robbery. Like, it's way too much. I'm like, it's $6 more. Like, really, that's when you go that little bit more, like, that's where you're gonna draw the line. Like,
whole number
that
is
last
just
$6.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a million. I mean, there's a bunch of people with it already. So it's just like, if you want it, buy it. If you don't, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. There's always a part of me that just wishes that it was in game with like a 0.01 to the, like, even if there was just that 1/1,000,000th of a chance that it would drop. Is that option? But I understand why they do it. From a business perspective, it makes sense. And heck, this whole process funded Europe getting their data center. So
it's true.
Right. I mean, that's the
like,
thing that people got to remember too. It's not like we're just throwing this money at Square Enix and Yoshida's going out and buying like all new furniture for his apartment or something with it. I mean, it's going right back into the game. Or optimization.
It'll probably go on
maybe.
sale eventually too.
Yeah, and they've done that. They've done that in
they
the
have done
past for
sales.
sales. So I was like, well, okay. $30 is outside of my range, but maybe 15. That'd be something.
I
that
feel
might be
the
fun.
same way about it as I do about the Yokai Watch event. Not
You just
interested. Don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there you go. Moving right along to back at E3, we had a chance to sit down with Yoshida-san and ask some questions. And there were a few on our list that we didn't have time to get to. So we threw those over in an email, and now we got them back. So he answered them for us. So we're just going to go here through these. There's only a couple, so like it's not like, giant interview. It's just a few little things, but some good information in these, I think. The first one is what's coming up in the future for the Diadem and exploratory missions. And he says, we're currently making progress in developing the next version of exploratory content. Based on the large amount of feedback we've received from around the world, we're making big changes to what is included, and we're working on it as though it's a brand new piece of content. However, because we're treading carefully, and this is large-scale content, it's taking a little bit more development time than expected, and so it's looking like it's going to be difficult to implement with 3.4. So we're planning to apply a minor update for Diadem in 3.4, and they plan to implement features such as capability to match up with just Disciples of Land, and refreshing items available as rewards. So stay tuned to the next letter from the producer live for more information.
This is going to be interesting because I think while Diadem was the first like brand new content, and then I would say that the Palace of the Dead is the kind of the second brand new content towards the game. It's something we haven't really seen. It's not it's a part of the normal cycle, but it seems that it didn't really go over as well. And I mean, I've done it, but it wasn't anything like as
I think really, and I'm not trying to make this sound super negative, but really, as far as like new content goes for the game, it's the first flop. It came out, it was popular for like a month, and then it just kind of died down, and nobody's in it. You'll get every so often gatherers will go in there, and it's just them. It's just like one gatherer that had a couple friends help him get in, and that's it. That's all that's in that whole area is one person.
So it'd be neat to see what this minor patch to it. Maybe that might help, because rewards to help incentivize that. But it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like that they're creating new exploratory content. So the Diadem's still going to be there. They're going to make this update to it, but they're literally going to be making another option, another, not for lack of a better term, another Diadem.
The impression that I get is that maybe they might be adding a new area, but they're also redefining what an exploratory mission is. And so the Diadem will get a big update. It'll get like a little refresh in 3.4. And then I think with 3.5 or whatever, they'll add another one, and then they'll go back that same patch maybe, and just so 3.5 or 3.6, for example, if we get a 3.6, we'll get to that in a minute. It'll just be like, okay, exploratory missions, like we got this new area, and then we did some stuff in this old area, so please go do this content, and please go into those areas because nobody has been. So we'll see what they do. I mean, if we get some like new rewards, it depends on what the rewards are, right? Because before it's you could get materias and like a Pegasus mount, which is great, but I mean it doesn't take long for people to get that or not need it anymore. And as we saw when the Diadem came out, nobody cares about it anymore, so we'll have to see what they add.
Well, and so if you look at the Diadem and you look at also the Palace of the Dead, like either you kick off the Diadem from your home, your free company house, or you go into Ishgard and go to basically the airship dock. But as opposed to all other content, you have to go talk to an NPC for these types of contents. And so there's also this removal of ease of access. So I would also venture that if the rewards were right, there would be a really interested player base in doing this type of content. But they're either not aware of it, the game doesn't draw them to it, or from an ease of access, they just kind of stick with their roulettes and what they can queue up for the duty or raid finder.
Well, I think too, right now as it is, even if Diadem was in duty roulette, people still wouldn't be doing it.
No, that's very
there's no
true.
reason
And
to.
that's
And
still tight because you're
hope-
absolutely right when it comes to rewards. You know,
And I
So
hope
you can't
their
incentivize it.
their new
Sorry, go ahead.
item reward thing that they're planning isn't just like, oh, instead of like what was it, 210? Was that the
yeah,
Yeah.
it was
When
210,
they
but it
first
was
came
like
out,
a
everyone-
real
yeah.
random stat gear.
Yeah, but you could get some really good stuff at the time.
Yeah,
And I'm
definitely.
hoping their new idea isn't, oh, we'll just have it drop like ethereal like 230 pieces now. Like I hope that's not what they do.
I hope so
Um,
too. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll be curious to see what they do with that. Because I mean, it sounded like it could be a cool idea when they first when it first came out, but then it just like, all right. So we'll
Speaking
see.
of ease of access, is anybody else amused that they finally gave us the raid finder, so you don't have to go out to freaking Alexander, and then in Deep Dungeon you have to go to the place again?
Yeah, I
It's
know, right?
hilarious.
Like, what? Be
Yeah.
consistent, please.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
have to
weird
schlep
sense of
everywhere or not?
consistency. Yeah, it's interesting because so if you look at the Deep Dungeon, there's so many people in Query Mill, and there's lots of chat and lots of conversation, positive there, but you have to go there. Maybe it's to offset that. Maybe they want to have that type of that content. I'm sorry, hit the mic. Content with the community, but I don't know. It traded. We did make that trade basically.
Hmm.
It could just be to get people out in older areas. Maybe that's that's part of the fate thing, right? They want more people to do fates. Well, if you're out in Quarry Mill, maybe you'll see a fate and you'll want to go and do the fate.
They want the world to feel more alive, and
What they
makes
really need
sense,
to do
but-
is go back and re-incentivize King Behemoth and
Oh yeah,
and
and
Odin.
Odin.
They need to
Yes.
bring in also like it would be great to have some open world type of dungeons that you could go and just have like things to do and kill. Like you said, King Behemoth is great, example. Yeah, it's like that's while it doesn't we don't want the game to shift only to that, but having those open world experiences make the world seem alive. Seeing a bunch of people, they've kind of done that. They tried to do that, or they've had that with hunts. Lots of open world things to go kill. It just I don't know. Just I would prefer to see some more of that. Because I do remember, like, do y'all remember back, in 1.0, we were rushing the various Beastmen stuff to go kill and do things, and so there's lots of people participating in that content. It'd be interesting to see something along those lines brought into
Well,
it.
I mean,
Notorious Monsters. I think someone.
back
just like-
in
Yeah.
Big hard-
back in the
big
day
hard
they had they talked about free company primals.
Right. Yeah.
Whether
Forgot about
or
that.
not those are still a thing, I don't know. Or it might be nice. It was funny. I was doing fates in South Shroud today, and I did the fate with the antelope NM, and walking around that area, it took me back to launch where that area right there. There's like different sizes of antelopes, and I think there might be one or two name different. Anyway. And we're like, oh, what if like we have to kill these and there's like an NM that pops or something.
Right.
And so we sat out there for like 30, 45 minutes just killing these antelope, thinking that, if there was a hidden trigger or something for an NM. Because you don't get those in 2.0, 3.0 now. There's not just NMs that pop.
Right.
And maybe that would be something, that they could add to, incentivize kind of going back out there and doing stuff. Because now all those NMs are in fates. That we had
And they
back in
also
1.0.
you do have those NMs that are acting as for the hunts though, the A rank and the like S rank.
But
and
you
stuff of that
don't
nature.
you don't get anything unique. That's what I'm
Right.
saying is they should have
Yeah.
some kind of unique NM reward system. Because hunts is one of those things too where every so often content will come out and you can buy something. They'll add something that you can buy with the seals you get from hunts. Right? It's just kind of like usually it's like relic weapon stuff, or you can buy it with a bunch of poetic tomes, or you can use these allied seals. And I just feel like it's, I don't know. I mean, there's still people that are really into it, and I don't understand why, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but it just feels kind of flat now. Like, oh, it's there. I guess I might as well kill it, but still, having a hunt link shell and, like, running around and killing them left and right. Like, I don't know. There's no reason to do that, I don't think, anymore.
Yeah, right now.
Upgrade items for the augmented primal gear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's not enough
There's still
to get me
people-
to do hunts.
Yeah, there's still people who do it for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A fair amount actually on Balmung, but who knows about other places.
It'd be neat to see, like, so if they because most of the NMs outside of that, were our fate bosses, which can be kind of fun. It would be cool to see, like we talked about earlier, incentivizing fates. Like, what if they dropped a unique piece of gear that you could sell or collect or something like that? It wouldn't have to be high level stuff, but the amount of work obviously to go and add that gear would actually make it would take some time, but why not? Like it just adds that extra value in, oh my gosh, this fate's popped. Okay, it's this boss, and I might get a chance of getting X if I,
right.
if we beat him. I don't know.
I'd rather see stuff like, granted, comparing 11 to 14, they're very different now, but some like a pop NM system, kind of like Sky, or just maybe instead of just having these random NMs that can just kind of pop up and drop stuff, like again the antelope. Go kill the antelope. There's a chance they'll drop this key item. The key item is used to pop the NM. The NM can drop something rare. Like I think something like that.
Well, like ZNMs.
No, not like ZNMs.
What you're describing is basically.
Well, no, ZNMs you had to go and take pictures. Right?
I have no idea.
Are you talking about 11 ZNMs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're talking about Pancration.
No, not Pancration. That's Pokemon. ZNMs is where you had to take pictures of monsters, turn them in for points, and then you would get a pop item.
Okay.
I think I stopped playing John, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Something that's more just kind of out in the open world to incentivize players to just go out and do stuff. Because again, that would bring them back to doing fates. It's like, oh, I'm out here, I might as well do a fate, or adding tomes to fates. Because at this point, like adding 5 esoterics tomes or five lore tomes even to a fate isn't gonna break any kind of balance in the game.
Nope.
But yeah. There we go. Anyway, back to the Q&A. Tangent, like a madman
giant
here.
tangent.
And this is from a little bit ago, so if it feels like it's a little dated, it is. Because again, we were going to ask these at E3. So days after patch 3.3, I tried queuing up for Frontline's Shatter, and it was already a 20-minute queue. Are there plans to do something to help alleviate long queue times for large group content? Yoshida said, immediately after a major patch release, players inevitably choose to focus on the new main scenario or PvE content, especially for 3.3, where we had new Disciples of Hand and Land gear introduced, and more laid-back content like the Aquapolis, which contributed to the population spreading itself out amongst content. I'm beginning to think that it might be better to release PvP content in a staggered schedule, and not at the same time as major updates. This is probably a separate discussion from adjusting Grand Company restrictions, and is a necessary task to investigate. That said, he says, I'm guessing your question was meant to imply Grand Company restrictions were the root of your cause of the queue time. Yes and no.
I'm calling you out.
It was truthfully, it was more of a worry about interest in PvP, right? When it's a few days out, where people would have done the main scenario already, I would think, if they were like really active players, right? Because it only takes like a day or two to get through that stuff. But anyway, he says, I would like to clarify that what I'm most concerned about when it comes to lifting the restriction of Grand Companies for PvP is not about the lore or inconsistency with the narrative, but the moral degradation of our players. And I'm mainly worried about new problems appearing that don't exist at the moment, such as spy activity and particular teams farming for one single Grand Company. That being said, I do plan on running some tests, so please stand by just a little longer.
My preference is would be interesting that if it would essentially kind of go off of kind of a priority system. Okay, you're going to queue and you're this Grand Company. That's priority 1. Second priority is, if you're in a group, and it's going to go off the leader's Grand Company. And then the third would be then let's fill you into a needed slot. So if there's 71 players, well, why not just go ahead and fill that gap? And that would be kind of my preferential treatment, in that regard. But he brings up an interesting point regarding kind of moral degradation, because it's there is already stress and people can be just huge jerks in PvP, and so then being able to kind of switch those different kind of things, you could end up seeing that people, if people would say, I want to play as a adder or as a this, I could see that you could run into some additional challenges.
And with the mention too of people farming for a single Grand Company, You're damn right we would, because there's try being an immortal flame on the Primal data center. You're never going to get any of those PvP mounts ever, never going to happen. And so yeah, I would love to farm a Grand Company, man, and actually get mounts
your
for
terrible
once.
Grand Company.
Oh, here we go.
What do you guys think about what he's talking about releasing it like in the off schedule and in the
I
half
think it's a good
patches?
idea.
Yeah,
I think
it's
the
not
problem now though is what else are they running on half patches on the 0.5s? The Feast, which is more PvP. So I mean, it's one of those things where the people that want to do PvP, like hardcore PvP, are going to do the Feast. They're not going to do this other content. So I don't know, because then on the 0.5s, it's just like laying it on even thicker with PvP, and I don't think that's a really good thing to do either. So I don't know.
Going back to the Grand Company thing, what you just said, Brent, I think that would be an amazing idea where it has priority, but like the third priority is like you're a mercenary. You don't pick what Grand Company you go to, but this one needs extra people. You go there, sure, you don't have control over it, you can't spy, but if there's Immortal Flames is looking kind of low, well, I'm an adder, but I want to get in PvP right now, so I'll work for them this one time, kind of a mercenary type thing. That'd be great.
And still, it wouldn't split up a party. Like if you go in as a preformed, then you're going to go in, and I would say just use the leader's Grand Company in that regards, because you're in a party. It would be difficult. Like I could see that if we're in a group together, that what's your team doing, and what's my team's doing this. Let me play and sabotage. But there is that. It could be that like, oh wait, I'm on the Flames, or I'm on the adder. I'm a flame. I'm going to help Flames win by just relaxing.
Yeah.
And I think an option too. I mean, I know he's talking about like people like spying and stuff. So for example, like if I queue in to like Shatter, right?
Yeah.
It just puts me wherever. It just matches me into a bunch of other people. I'm not going to know what team I'm on.
Yeah.
So I don't see how that's going to be an issue. I mean, maybe a little bit more if you get like a party or like alliances of people going in at the same time, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like the potential for just like that kind of stuff is heavily outweighed by just getting into a fast PvP queue and actually being able to play the content.
Well, and I mean, taking it outside of Final Fantasy, like if I'm playing Halo and I get queued on the red team or the blue team, like whatever.
I don't care. I just want to play. I don't want to sit in
I want to win.
matchmaking
Like
for 5 minutes.
I want to win.
Yeah.
And you can incentivize anybody who wouldn't want to win. Like, oh, we see that you're helping out as a merc. We're going to give you 20% more experience if you participate. Okay, cool. All right. And it almost would be that, man, I hope I get put in on another team.
All right, so the next question here was I talked about how I love to decorate my house. I'm huge on the house stuff. One thing. Uh-oh. Killing me. She ruined all the cameras. Oh my god.
Are we all in different ones?
Yeah, we're all messed up now.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. It fixed itself. Yay. I was worried for a minute. Anyway, you're muted, Michelle.
I think she said she had a call that
she knows. She knows. Okay. Okay. Anyway. Oh, yeah, there's a message in the chat, isn't there? Whoops. She's like, yeah, dumbass.
Good. Yeah, good job running the hosting duties there, buddy. No.
Oh, now I gotta close that to fix the cameras. Anyway, wow. I said I'd really like to decorate my house. One thing that's always bugged me, however, is partitions, because you can't wallpaper partitions. Is there any chance that we can, wallpaper partitions? And he says, I'm glad that you're enjoying decorating your house. We've received the same sort of feedback from many of our players, so I'm having the housing team consider whether or not we can either change the wallpaper on a partition or prepare one that matches the wallpaper. It might take some time before implementation, but I do intend on addressing this in some way. I hope it's just wallpapering the partitions and not having to make a separate partition for every single wallpaper. That would be really tedious and stupid. But they're working on it. So anybody that's, like me and loves to decorate and is like really super like annoyed by having all this great wallpaper and then like a wood wall that doesn't match it, it's coming. So there you go. And our last question here. A lot of people are assuming that the 3.x cycle is going to mimic the 2.x cycle and end with patch 3.5. Is that the plan? Can you tell us on what patch you plan on ending 3.0 with. And he says, the official answer has not been revealed yet. If we announce it, people would start debating about whether the next expansion, when the expansion will be released, and it will be heavily linked to the main scenario. So if you could stand by until FanFest for more information. So
I never understood, especially from the 2 series, it was like 3.5 and 3.55.
2.55.
And I'm like, did they do that because that they said they were going to go to 3.5 at some 2.5, and then they were like, well, I guess we still need to get some of this stuff wrapped up, and we still have a little bit of time here. So it's like doing a 3.6, or the only thing I guess that would throw people off would be that the expectation of the even patches introducing the new hardest content and the gear increase, and that would be they would need to obviously have a plan for that, because if they came out with a 3.6 and then, or heck, even a 3.7, it's like there's some expectations that might be tied into that that content, that patch.
Right. Well, and I think at one point too they said that the cycle was going to be shorter, after kicking into the expansions, right?
Yeah,
they did say that.
But
I feel like
just going off,
it's going to go the other way. I feel like we're going to end up at like 3.6 or 3.55, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking ahead at content. So we're at 3.3 now. We still have 2 more of the Warring Triad. So that's 3.4, 3.5. Presumably, if it's going to Kefka it up, we'll have another trial at 3.6. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And so obviously, if it's true and they were going to go shorter, it's like, so we should be learning about 4.0 in October, and we're assuming pretty strongly that, that, and it, and and 3.4 should be sometime in September. If it doesn't make that, it would be early October. So it would be right around that. So tying that back to last time, it was in October, and just right after that 2.4 came out, and then we had 2.5 in January, February, so 3.5 January, that kind of time frame. And then if they're shooting again for a 4.0, I would hope that they take the time to make sure they got everything buttoned up. But having it in 4.0 next June isn't that bad. But if they're really trying to get it sooner, because they were trying to get 3.0 out, they said springtime, and technically they did it in the end of June is
the last
still
day
in spring.
Of spring when it launched or something.
But maybe they're really working to have 4.0 in May, or who knows, we'll see.
And I'm hoping this time around too, because there was that bit of a lull right between 2.55 and 3.0. I'm hoping that they can make that less of a gap, instead of having it be as long as it was before.
My big concern with 4.0, like with any kind of lull, would be from 4.0 to 4.1. I think that a big thing that hurt was just the amount of time it took from 3.0 to 3.1. There was just such a long period of time that, I think that's just what hurt a lot of people, because it's just like, wait a minute, okay, there's a lot here to do.
And it's rough too from a development standpoint, because they added a lot in 3.0, and there was a lot of tweaking they had to do, and then there was all the new stuff as well. So there was a lot of stuff. So whether I'm sure they're learning right as they go. You never aren't learning.
I hope so.
Right.
But whether or not it's something that they can do feasibly or not, we're just gonna have to wait.
We can all be thankful that we won't see 13 months of no content like other games have before.
Right.
So we've got to be grateful for that.
And even then we'll get like a 0.5 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was really one of the biggest things that hit Old Republic when that came out.
Yeah.
Is they had such a giant gap that everybody left by the time they patched the game.
Was horrible.
Yeah.
So
there you go. Next up here we have a contest we're going to announce here. We are going to be giving away 3 I Beat Sephiroth t-shirts signed by Naoki Yoshida. And each shirt is going to also come with one of those big giant bags from E3 that I'm sure you've seen around. Back at PAX East, we talked to Michael Christopher Koji Fox, and he was telling us about the possibility that maybe in areas outside of Eorzea, there's a group that worships Ifrit, And Ifrit to them is this benevolent god who hands out flowers to children and is the fire that roasts your marshmallows. And so we kind of took that idea and ran with it. And so what we did is we actually asked members of the Final Fantasy XIV team how they would take an existing primal and change it. Naoki Yoshida says, I suppose I would pick Shiva. Final Fantasy XIV's version of Shiva was born from delusions and experiences of Ysayle, the snowy wastes of her childhood and religious imagery of the ice goddess Halone, Ysayle's admiration for the saint who loved a dragon. All of this formed the basis of what would be the primal. Of course, the real saint Shiva has a personality and backstory all her own, and it could be fun to imagine what a primal based on that would be, given her fiery passion, her supposed fiery passion. She may not be all that different from Ifrit.
Interesting.
Koji Fox, sit down for this one. It's an answer from Koji, right? Like, it's what you would expect from Koji. He goes, I think you need an ultimate tag team. The Primals come together to form a wild burger joint that would put Guy Fieri's wasabi-infused, bleach blonde, manwich, peddling diners, drive-ins, and or dives to shame. Ravana slices and minces the meat, 100% free-range deep-fried death mouse. Titan pummels them into patties, fresh, never frozen. Ifrit chars them to perfection with his hell flames. Gruta constructs the burger with the skill and alacrity of a Hamburger University-trained sandwich artist and keeps the layers in place with one of her pinion feathers. Leviathan mixes and preps the fountain drinks while Shiva chills the glasses. And finally, Bismarck delivers the order across the realm, Amazon drone style, in a half bell or less, or your food is free. Ramu is the old curmudgeon in the corner of the store, nursing that complimentary cup of water while reading the morning paper. Odin's a level 8 vegan, so you won't find him anywhere near the place.
Explains all of his powers.
It was funny because I mentioned this. I'm like, I thought, like, isn't Zan Tetsuken technically the primal? And he's like, yeah, but a sword can't be a vegan.
I love that answer.
Oh man, yeah. Matt from the CUNY team says he would pick Leviathan. I could really see him worshipped as a spirit in the lakes and rivers around Heidelin. People worship Leviathan and praise him for helping young kids learn to swim in the summers or for saving the lives of drunkards that may fall into his watery domain. I imagine people would work extra hard to keep their lakes and rivers clean to show their love for Leviathan too.
Isn't that cute?
And then Devin, I think everybody's got Leviathan all wrong. To some, he may be making maelstroms and causing craziness in the waters, but clearly surfers are worshipping him for amazing swells and his being kind by answering their calls. If he could promise me a few good waves every day, I would have no qualms about becoming enslaved to him. Adventures only stopped surfers from having fun when they attacked Leviathan on their barge. This one's really good too, from Shannon. She would change Bismarck. See, I imagine that inhabitants of the realm outside Eorzea would be confused by the Great White Whale and his shared name with the most illustrious restaurant and culinarians guild in Eorzea, the Bismarck. Both are notorious for entirely different reasons, and their acclaim seems to spread and fuse. As such, Bismarck would be revered by many outsiders as the benevolent god of snacks. Stories of his consumption of islands are less horror tales and more playful hyperbole to express just how much of an appetite one can work up while soaring through the skies. Legends even suggest that the Vanu Vanu aren't just fluffy and rotund due to their feathery down, but they hold gluttonous feasts on a weekly basis in order to appease their god. I've been getting really hungry reading some of these. Tony says he would change Ravana. I can imagine him being worshipped by all the culinarians. Again, food. As
everywhere.
He controls earth and fire.
Did they answer this during lunch?
I'm wondering. I think they did. His earth and power to grow lush vegetables and his fierce fire to work magic in the kitchen. His legendary blades, the Chandrahas, are also known as the almighty Chahan blades. A couple of his famous prelude to slaughters and sprinkles of his special Ghana spices. That's what the butterflies are. Mm-hmm. He cooks the world's best fried rice. And he says Chahan is fried rice in Japanese. So, and last but not least here, again, food. For context, I've been on a Shiva kick. and even requested her to be eating an ice cream sandwich. So despite the way people view Shiva and the heretics, I would change that. Despite their seemingly cold personalities, there would be one thing that would show a sweeter side to them. Before partaking in an indulgence of frozen treats, people would thank Shiva for the element of ice, whether it infused in the crystals during the creation of such treats or made through other means. They would also make sure that soft serve would look perfectly swirled as Shiva's hair.
That would be cool.
We need those at FanFest.
I seriously
Never
think
gonna
this
be
was
able
asked
to
during
unsee
lunch.
that.
We need
No.
those at FanFest, right? The Shiva soft serve.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Great.
there we go. So we will have a post coming up on the website later this week with details on how to enter this contest. We're going to have you tell us how you would change a primal. You can just make a comment if you want. You could, draw us an illustration of how you would change a primal. Anything like that. We will read or show off those on the next episode of Aetheryte Radio, which we haven't dated yet. So keep an eye out for the announcement on that. And we'll read off some of our favorites and choose the top 3 as the winners. So this contest is open to residents of North America. So if you're in Canada, you can enter. All right.
Oh, cool.
So keep an eye out for that. That'll be up on the website this coming week. And that is it. That's all we had.
Very cool. Good
Does
job,
anybody
everybody.
else have anything that they want to mention? Shout-outs or anything?
I've been making fun tutorial controller guides for various jobs that I play.
It's awesome.
You're just so slow.
cool.
I'm like, what
Well, I
is
was like, I always feel like, should I hey, check out the other stuff that I do? No, so I've been just kind of like, for whatever reason, so I made this like Paladin controller guide video because like I have a Paladin 60, and then one of my friends was playing around with them, and I was like, well, I'm gonna make a little guide talking about how I lay out the cross hotbar and some macros that I have, and then like I totally just posted it, just like went about my life, and this was like back in February. I come back and for me it has like 600 views, and I was like, what? Like my videos that I posted like 2 or 3 views from my mom. And so it's like, okay, well, cool. I'll make one for Dark Knight, and that seemed to be real popular. So I've been just kind of making these little Final Fantasy 14 controller guides. So for those out there on who play on PS4 with a controller or play on the PC with a controller, I check out, I guess, my YouTube channel. Everyone usually starts with, "Hey, this is Bryn from Aetheryte Radio." So nice. Plugging the podcast as well. So check that out.
Have you done a Black Mage one yet?
Actually, so Black Mage and Warrior are going to be a little bit more complex because while I have my Black Mage at 60 and I really like it, I usually do Summoner, and I love Summoner. I actually just made a Summoner video today and posted it today, but Warrior and Black Mage require a little bit more nuance because especially when you talk about Nokian, it can change. And so again, the whole concept behind these videos is that you're playing with a controller, you've got what the system does. So it'll be interesting to see when they do the double cross hotbar if that changes any kind of tips that I've got. But as a controller player, that's kind of the thing. And so I hadn't ever asked like Fusion because I was like, well, I've got the video. Like, do you want maybe I just post a link into the wiki, so that for like these little guides and stuff. But I didn't know, I didn't want to be like, hey, here's the.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was just that. So Black Mage is going to take a little bit more work because Summoner I do great DPS at, and I do okay DPS in a Black Mage, and I do believe that's because I need to rethink some of my macros and some of the how I approach the job on a controller. The end.
I asked mostly because I imagine it's really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Summoner's really easy. I have my Dark Knight, and that's it's fantastic. I do great with it. But the Black Mage will be difficult, and Warrior's actually going to be difficult too because it's best to have it switch your cross hotbar because you've got those skills for when you're talking about Abandon and when you're talking about Defiance that you need that. You need to be able to kind of switch it because otherwise you're just not doing yourself any favors. So I'm working on those.
Cool. Real quick too, I want to give a shout out. Last week before, I was a guest on Phoenix Down Radio. talking to those guys over there. So make sure to go and give them a listen. They're on Twitter. I think they're on, is it phoenixdownradio.com? It might be a Tumblr, I forget. But
Will
look
you
them up.
post it out when you post the show? Like the link?
Yeah, I can put a link on it too.
Great.
Yeah. But, Google. It's easy to find them.
Let me Google that for you.
Exactly.
I should include that as the link, right? Anyway, give that show a listen. It was cool talking to all these guys. And yeah, so I guess that will do it for this episode of Aetheryte Radio. If you would like to get a hold of us, well, that's not the right screen. That one. You can contact us at aetheryteradio@gamerescape.com. Throw us a tweet at Aetheryte Radio. We'll read stuff on the air, answer questions, all that kind of stuff. Keep an eye out for the contest that we got coming up. Win yourself an I Beat Sephiroth shirt signed by Naoki Yoshida. And that's it. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
We want to do more interviews. Let us know who you want to hear from.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. I was like, throwing me off my thing here. So yeah, that'll do it. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and we will see you here next time.
Peace.
Bye.